Now, today, the media portrays the protests outside the courts, where some of the alleged rapists are being tried, as a far-right Britain First demo or an EDL demo, ignoring the fact that many Sikhs have also come along to express their anger. Why would the mainstream media do that? Joining me now is Bhai Mohan Singh Ji from the Sikh Awareness Society. He was photographed outside Leeds Crown Court this week, where 27 men and 2 women were on trial for sex crimes against children. I'm delighted to say he joins me now. Good morning.
Good morning, sir.
Why have you been protesting outside these courts whilst these men and women have been on trial?
Well, basically, it's about child abusers, and these people are abusing British children, and we're part of the British community, and it's everybody's right to protest. And if we don't protest about these child abusing gangs, then we're aiding and abetting them. We're part of the.
Just hold on a moment, though. Hold on a minute, though. We must stress the fact that at the moment, these men and women are only on trial. They're accused of being abusers. You must be careful of not calling them that until they're found guilty. Otherwise, you might prejudice the trial, and we wouldn't want that. So these alleged rapists. So why is it of particular concern to you? And why do you think the British press have not portrayed the Sikhs who have been protesting? Because I've not seen any pictures of you. I've not seen any television of people like you protesting. I thought it was just people like Tommy Robinson, white-skinned people.
No, I mean, there was all different. There was about 8 or 9 Sikhs there as well with us. I think in the local papers there were the pictures there, but it's about children, and also we got to call a spade now. Out of the alleged child abusers, there's 2 Punjabi background people, Sikhs. So as Sikhs, we want to stand up and say, not in our name. You're not doing that to children. And every children matters, whether it's white, black, whatever color, whatever race, it matters. And it's up to the community. Forget about EDL, forget about Britain First, or forget about any right-wing group. It's about children, and this should stop. And if we can call a spade, if they are Muslim groomers doing it, then we need to say that. And the elite top, the media, and people in political power, they're too politically correct, and I sometimes feel they're too scared to tackle this. Because the politicians are banking on their votes and inner cities and stuff like that. So, it's for themselves and not for the welfare of the young people being abused.
Explain to me the history of this. As I understand it, some of these Muslim gangs first targeted Sikh girls, but the Sikh community took action of their own, did they, to stop this happening? And then these men turned their attention to white girls. Is that right? What's the historical context?
Basically, we've been around 97, and this was happening before 97. And when we sort of looked at this issue, and we created the Sikh Awareness Society group to spread the awareness throughout the Gurdwaras, because there was a large number of Sikh girls being groomed and abused, used and abused. And our campaign started back in 97, and then slowly increased, and we're working across the board now with Hindu communities, even with the white community. We just work with anyone, because at the end of the day, we want to get rid of these child abusers. There's no place for them in today's society. Okay. That's what I say.
Well, I know that you know that I agree with you entirely. But why do you think the mainstream press are scared to, as you say, call a spade a spade? I mean, we've even got a scenario now where the BBC are making a TV drama where they're not going to mention the fact that the origin of these people is Pakistan, the majority, and that they're Muslim, and they're not even mentioning Islam. I mean, we've had films, Hollywood blockbusters, about child abuse by Catholic priests, in particular, say, in Boston in the United States. They weren't scared to talk about the fact it was the Catholic Church. Why are they scared to mention the M word? What do you reckon?
I think it might be just down to being called racist, or simply frightened to take on a community, frightened for the backlash, or there could be a number of reasons. But when you get law enforcement agencies, when you get them saying, they've been sitting on information for the last 20 years, 30 years. West Midlands Police was sitting on information where they were saying 85% of the perpetrators were Asian. Now, we'd love to know which Asian community is doing it, whether it's the Koreans or the Chinese or the whoever's doing it. Then we can put the resources in and sort this problem out. And this is what it hurts. When in the past, when England's gone to play football in Europe and they've rioted, and they've been called English hooligans. They haven't been called European hooligans. So why tarnish all of Asia with that label? And then it's a very divisive thing as well.
Do you find that incredibly insulting? Because my daughter goes out with a Hindu guy, Dipesh, and I know he gets very, very upset when they describe these monsters as Asian, because he says, I'm Asian, but I'm a Hindu, and I don't want to be associated with these monsters. And rightly so. I can understand why people would get very angry.
No, it's correct. I mean, it's a very nasty crime, and you don't want to be labelled every Asian from from here to nowhere. And Asia is a very, very big continent. You don't want to be labelled for the few that are hell bent on doing that. And you've got cases going back, groups, gangs. Their families. There's not just friends. Their families, their brothers, their uncles. Don't their families know? Don't their communities know? Is the community aiding and abetting? All these questions need to be asked.
But a lot of people say you don't have to stress the Muslim thing or Islam in this, and then to do that is to be racist. There's no need to do that. We just need to say, look, there's paedophiles of all colours from all religions. That's the argument that's put forward. Do you think their religion is important within this? Their culture?
I think it is, because then if it's labelled, then you look into what is being taught in their centres, in the madrasas and the mosques. You can put resources to see what's being taught, and if negativity is being taught. I find the word kafir very racist.
Yeah.
Now, why are we tackling that? You understand? Yeah. So there might be other words that are encouraging a people or community to say that the white girl or the Sikh girl, or these are kafirs, and what is the status of a kafir in the eyes of their leaders? You know what I mean?
If we're going to say the P word is offensive and the N word is offensive, then you're absolutely right. The K word, kafir, is as offensive as well, isn't it? We don't want this kind of filthy language and the message that's underlying there. And the message that's underlying it is clearly racist, isn't it?
I mean, to be honest, look, when you look at the Sikh religion, we're not against anyone, but we're against the crime that's been committed. Now, if the perpetrators are coming from one faith, if they're Muslim, then we should call them. So the resources can be put in to sort of deal with this problem, rather than tiptoeing around round and around. And every second week or third week there's a case, and and it's a non-stop process. And then the politicians will come out and say the right words, and then everybody's forgotten about it until the next case, and the next case, and the next case. Can't people wake up and see what's been happening for the last 25, 30 years?
Good talking to you. Thanks for taking the time today. Bay Mohan Singh G. He's been protesting along with 7 or other 8 Sikhs outside these trials of these alleged men and women who have been allegedly raping white girls. Now, we know some of them have been found guilty in other cases, and he was there as well. He was there with people like Tommy Robinson. But if you look at the newspapers, if you watch the TV news, it would appear that nobody of another skin colour than white has been at these protests. Why are the media, the mainstream media, lying to you? Why are they not telling you the truth, that there are communities right across the United Kingdom who are against these monsters? And why does the mainstream media continue to call them Asian rape gangs when they're not Asian, they're predominantly Muslim? And why do we have the state broadcaster, the BBC, today or yesterday announcing they've done a film, a drama about the rape gangs, but nowhere in the drama do they mention the word Muslim or Islam? I'm sorry, that's wrong. And if you think I'm a racist for saying that, I point you to the brilliant film, I think it's called Spotlight, in Boston. Set in Boston, where the Catholic priest for over 50 or 60 years had been abusing children. It was a Hollywood blockbuster, but they mentioned the church in that, and rightly so. We've had other dramas on the BBC, for goodness sake, produced with our tax money, which have criticised the Roman Catholic Church or the Church of England. Why is there one rule for the Muslims and another rule for everyone? And who decided this? I haven't seen this in any political manifesto. Have you? 020 38 29 1234. Let's just bring Tony in on this. He's with me today in Branson, of course, just before we set off to go down to Memphis, Tennessee. And we were debating this yesterday in the car, weren't we? We've been having the most long-ranging conversation, all the laddie things that you'd imagine for us to be talking about. You know, we're not whiter than white, if I'm allowed to use that term. But we've also been discussing the big political things because we've got so much time on our hands as we drive. And we were talking about this yesterday, Tony. What is this reluctance? What do you think of the BBC not mentioning the M word or the I word?
It's the BBC are just totally and utterly biased. They're scared. What are they scared of? What is the issue?
Well, they're scared that northern monkeys like you might rebel and start fighting on the streets and attacking Muslims, innocent Muslims, if they dare to speak about it. That's what they're talking about. That's why every time there's a terrorism attack, the ex-president of the United States says, oh, it's nothing to do with Islam. That's why our prime ministers do it as well. They think you're the problem, Tony. White, working-class northern monkeys like you.
It's just totally and utterly wrong. It's complete and utter biased. It's unreasonable. Just be honest, it's not going to make any difference. There's not going to be rioting on the streets if they say Muslim, if they say Islam. Be honest, people are not stupid. People know what it is, and the more they try to hide it, the more it could become a problem.
When you say the more it could become a problem, you think people are talking about this behind closed doors, behind shut curtains, and that eventually that boil might sort of erupt?
Yeah, very much so, because, you know, we all know you can be in a pub, bar, whatever you want to call it, and literally people do speak more openly there and more honestly in that environment. And why aren't the BBC covering it? If the more things are kept underground, the more there's a risk of them boiling over.
I totally agree. That's Tony Pycroft, his views, the Northern Monk. The BBC have made a drama about girls affected by Muslim rape gangs, but with no mention of Islam or Muslim in the press release or the trailer. The writer claims there was no religious basis for this. Oh, really? 3 Girls, which will be aired on the 16th of May on BBC One, which of course you've paid for, tells the story of 3 children from Rochdale targeted by a gang of largely Pakistani original Muslims between 2005 and 2008, although you wouldn't know that because the BBC are not mentioning the Muslim word. Speaking to The Guardian, who else? The series writer Nicole Taylor said, I quote, I didn't want to give these people, brackets, the English Defence League, close brackets, an opportunity by telling the story, adding, but that's not the reason to do the drama. She's more worried about people like the EDL or people like me reacting to this show if she dares as the Muslim. Well, she can shut up, because here is the founder of the EDAL, no longer a member, of course. He's now a reporter for Rebel Media, the man who won't be silenced, Tommy Robinson. Hello, Tommy.
Hi, John, you all right?
Yeah, I'm looking forward to this farce. How can you do a drama about Rochdale and the rape gangs and not mention the M word or the I word?
Well, this is the problem. This is the problem. That well, I haven't seen it yet, but I presume it's going to be pointless. It's going to be politically correct. And the reasons for why it happened. To get into the root cause of the reasons why 90% of the men convicted of these street grooming gang convictions are Muslim, and 20% are called Mohammed. There's reasons for that, which is what they need to be getting to. Rather than just doing a documentary showing off what they did, it's more why they did it, why it was acceptable within their community, why it was acceptable amongst each other, amongst friends, amongst work colleagues, amongst brothers, amongst fathers and sons, why they all fully were aware of what was going on, and no one tried to stop it. Why they all participated. That's what we need to know. We need to know why the ex-mayor went to court and gave a character reference for one of the Rochdale groomers. We need to know why the local Labour councillor went to court and gave a character reference for one of the groomers. That's what we need to be getting to the bottom of. Why?
So what you're actually saying is a drama could be really interesting and could be really informative, but you can't possibly have a drama without talking about the racial or the religious background of the majority of the perpetrators of these horrendous crimes.
No, you can't, and I worry that they're going to paint it up in a different way. That it's just that's it. It's not religiously. That it wasn't religiously or racially motivated at all. That's what I worry that they're going to do, because we know it was. Anyone who reads into the cases, anyone who reads the statements, anyone who reads what the girls were called while they were being raped, any of those things, you cannot get away from the religious factor.
Okay, well, let's go through that then. Just explain to me then exactly how it's related to Muslims. And you say you've read the statements, you know, and let's talk about the trials that have already happened where people have been found guilty, Tommy. We're not talking about present trials. How do you know? Give me some examples, my friend.
For example, the Bristol case of Somalian men, one of the men in court said it was his religious duty to do this. A similar case in London where a man said that he felt he had the right to do it because of the way the woman was dressed in the time she was out at night. Yeah. Now this all comes from their religious views. When we look into these things, we've had girls continuously being called white bits of meat, being called pigs, references to their races. Well, whilst I know you had Mohan Singh on earlier, and over the past.
Tommy, I've lost you there. Just say that again. We lost you on the mobile. Say it again.
Okay. So over the last 6 years, I spent I've been with Mohan Singh many times to seek in Hindu temples, to watch his conferences and seminars. Now, one of these instances, we was at a Hindu temple in London, and the police come in, and it wound me up afterwards. The police come in, and they apologise to the Hindus. They apologise to the men, the women. They said, look, we really have not got scripts for this. We really misplaced it. So they apologised to them all. And then they showed them an educational video on grooming. Now, what they used as their educational video to warn people of grooming, they used EastEnders actors, one of them being Whitney, a young white girl, who was being groomed by young white men. And I'm sitting there just absolutely in shock, thinking, this is what you're using to educate people on what we know is a Muslim-dominated scene. We know it's Muslim men, and we know they're targeting non-Muslim kids. And you're showing us white men grooming a young white girl. And then afterwards, each time I've walked out of those seminars with Mohan, I thought it's brilliant. It's brilliant what Mohan does. It's brilliant what his organisation Sikh Awareness does. But I always went away feeling the Sikh community are being warned. Their mothers are being educated. Their daughters are being educated. The Hindu community are being warned and educated. And the white working class community, they're not being warned or apologised to. They're just being left.
And worse than that, I guess they also think the white working class community, if they did know more about this, would react and somehow start attacking all Muslims, whereas there's been no evidence of that really happening, has there, Tommy? But they're treating us as criminals. And indeed, you know, we were talking about the coverage earlier. All the coverage of people like yourself outside the court is always focusing on white geezers. We're not seeing these 8 or 9 Sikhs that have been there. Why are the mainstream media not portraying the truth there? It concerns a lot of communities, doesn't it? It's not a white versus Muslim problem.
No, it's not. It's not. I think they actually cut them. They actually cut them out of the pictures, I believe, the Sikhs. They cut them out.
This is the
order to run a story. Yeah, in order to run a story saying mob, and have loads of white people standing there, they had to cut the Sikhs out. Now, that Sikh charity with Mohan Singh, they don't just help Sikh girls either. They help many girls. They help they now help Christian girls, Hindu girls, even Muslim girls. They have to relocate some of them to different countries to get away from this problem. That's how, you see, because I follow this problem, because I've spent years talking to families, driving around the country, going to seminars, listening and learning how it's happening, going through the court cases, seeing what the men said, when they said it. I know that when they're raping Sikh girls, they're continuously making comments about conflicts between Muslims and Sikhs. Continuously, yeah. So I know what they're using to justify their actions. They're using religion, their religion, yeah? and their downward view on non-Muslim women. So because I do that, and I understand how big the problem is, I understand how huge this is, yeah? And how we haven't even touched it yet. The government haven't touched it. The police haven't touched it. This is still happening in every single one of our cities, and that's why, I think that trying to highlight, you know what's happened this week. I can't really talk about the ins and outs. I was arrested 2 days ago for what I'd say was trying to stop trying to stop the lid on this.
But don't drop yourself further in it, Tommy.
No,
because that doesn't serve you well or anyone else. So finally, then, summing up, should the BBC have made this drama at all?
The BBC should make a drama. We need a public inquiry into the religious justification being given to news. If we look at, for example, if we look at what these men were doing in Rotherham, it's exactly the same as what Boko Haram or ISIS are doing in faraway fields. Yeah. Now, the justification given by both of those groups and both of those sets of organisations is that it's their religious duty. Now, when you understand that the Prophet Muhammad did exactly this himself. He took non-Muslim women as sexual slaves, and he instructed his followers to do the same. The only argument it comes down to is that is completely justified. And every imam will tell you that, but only when at war. So ISIS are at war, Boko Haram at war, so we can come in like the girls in Nigeria when they took 200 girls. We're allowed to do this because Allah has commanded us to do this. They are our spoils of war. Now, how many Muslims in this country? You have the House of War and the House of God, for people who don't know. That Islam divides the world in two. The House of War and the House of God. Now, until this country converts to Islam, it's a house of war. That's how it's labelled. So many of these men, just to justify their actions, and we have to understand that these men are not getting a hostile reception in their communities. They're doing these crimes. They're walking around their communities very cocksure, very happy. You can see them walking in and out of courts all full of themselves with support from their communities. Every one of these trials, at the end of the trial, their communities, their families have all been there supporting them and cheering and shouting in the court, blaming racism for the fact that they're in court, blaming the girls for being little tramps and little slags when they're 11 years old. And as I said, throughout the years, I've been corrected on this issue many times by Muslims. When we talk about these young children, I remember being corrected. People can watch it. I was on the Big Questions, and the Muslim woman corrected me. I was talking about Oxford, and I said, these young children, and she said, young women. And only when I watched it back, only when I watched the video back to see how I'd done, I thought she corrected me, because in the Muslim community, they don't view these girls as young children, because as soon as a child starts puberty, they're viewed as an adult. Now, that's the mindset and the ideology within that community. So these girls, whether they be 13 or 14, as far as they see it, they're adults. This is not viewed as paedophilia within their community. So
that's the views of Tommy Robinson. Thank you for joining us, Tommy. The BBC have made a drama without mentioning the word Muslim or Islam. If you've got a view, I want to hear it.